we worry about a lot of stuff, right? Does anybody ever worry about anything? Yeah, I know you do. You know, you don't have to worry about me worrying about you, because I do. You know, I worry. I fall into that trap sometimes too. But really, in life, there's only two things in life that we really worry about, and that is whether you're healthy or whether you're sick. Now, if you're healthy, you ain't got nothing to worry about. But if you're sick, you got two things to worry about. Whether you're going to get better or whether you're going to get worse. Now, if you get better, you ain't got nothing to worry about. But if you get worse, you got two things to worry about. Whether you're going to live or whether you're going to die. Now, if you live, you ain't got nothing to worry about. But if you die, you got two things to worry about. Whether you're going to go to heaven or whether you're going to go to hell. Now, if you go to heaven, you ain't got nothing to worry about. But if you go to hell, you got two things to worry about. Original or crispy. Thank you, Miles. Has nothing to do with what I'm going to talk about today. I just thought it was funny. And if you can make it apply somehow, go ahead and do that and let me know after the service. And next time I preach it, I'll make it apply somehow. But, as you know, we've been journeying through the Living Room series. We've been poking around the hidden and tender corners of our heart. The living room is a metaphor for your heart, if you hadn't figured that out yet. And next week we'll wind up the series. Pastor Matt is going to wind it up talking about a comfortable living room. But we've been kind of meandering in and out and exploring the corners of our hearts, you know, those quiet, intimate places where we either open wide the doors to welcome God, or if we're honest, sometimes we wedge a chair under the doorknob because we don't want Him to come in right now, kind of holding on to our messes like they're all we got. Now, each room that we've explored so far, each living room that we've gone through, shows how we can get tangled up in our own struggles, letting them shape who we think we are. Now, if you remember, we started way back 4 weeks ago, we started in the formal living room. Pastor Matt showed us this room where we treat God like a guest that we're not quite sure how to handle, you know, where in this room we offer, our stiff smile, our pasted-on smile, our best dishes. We bring them out and we kind of keep Him at arm's length behind walls of polite conversation and polite distance. You know, it's kind of like that awkward, relationship that we have sometimes, maybe like on a first date or something. And, when we left the formal living room, or when we have a formal living room in our heart, it basically leaves us lonelier than ever because we really don't make any kind of connection in that room. Then the next week we waded into that cluttered room, if you remember all the clutter that was on the platform, where our spiritual lives get buried underneath busyness and underneath piles of old hurts or grudges, or just doing things that's not wrong, not sins, but they clutter our life and they kind of push aside the opportunity of developing a close relationship with God. And we're in that, searching for God kind of feels like you're rummaging through a junk drawer looking for a lost key. You ever done that? And last week, we stepped into the plastic-covered living room where everything is kind of locked down tight, covered up, sealed up in fear. We got do not touch signs, or if we didn't, that's what we're saying. Do not touch signs are all over the place, as if God's grace might mess up our carefully polished front that we're trying to put up here. Now, looking ahead to next week, next Sunday, Pastor Matt is going to be speaking toward the heart of this journey into a well-lived living room. It's not perfect or spotless, but it's real, marked by an authentic walk with God. It's a heart where Jesus doesn't just visit, he's at home when he gets there, and he's welcomed with open arms. But I'll let Pastor Matt teach all about that. It's going to be really good. And so that's where we're going. Hopefully to hearts that are ready, not because they're flawless, but because they're honest, open, and hungry for the presence of God. Do you want Jesus in your life? Okay, that's the question we're trying to answer here. And so hopefully we'll see you here next Sunday early, 9:30 for prayer. Next Sunday, we're going to announce again to all you men, get your rear end signed up for that men's event. We're doing this for you because you ask us to do things like that. So sign yourself up so we can get you counted and so that we can count on you being there. Today, though, aside from fussing about that a little bit, we're standing in a different kind of space. And this one is the empty living room. The empty living room. Can you picture it in your mind now? It's kind of like the hush of a new house before the moving truck arrives, with all the furniture. Or maybe it's the heartbreaking quiet of the living room just after you got a divorce or someone you loved left you, or maybe you just lost your job, or maybe you've experienced the death of someone that you love so much, and it has created this emptiness in your heart, this empty space inside of you that it's just alarming to you, the silence that is there. And it's not just an empty space, it's an ache that's deep in your soul, that's heavy with regret, it's heavy with fear, or it's heavy with sadness. You can almost see, if you're imagining it with me today, you can see the dust, floating in the sunlight. There's no cozy chair to sink down into. There's no couch. There's no warm candlelight to soften the edges. In fact, in this room we got now, we got a light because you need a light, But if you wanted to sit, you just have to sit on the floor, and it's just a raw, musty stillness that smells of loneliness and whispers of a longing to belong somewhere. As I thought about the title that was given to this message, The Empty Living Room, those two words, empty and living, they kind of popped out at me as I was studying, and because those two words together, empty living, they feel like they're at odds with one another, don't they? They don't feel like they fit together. How do you put living in the same sentence with empty, because they are so at odds with one another? And here's the deal. We've all been there. Maybe it was from abandonment as a child, or maybe it was from abuse as a wife, or as a girlfriend, or even as a husband or a boyfriend. Maybe it was emotional abuse that you're thinking about now as I begin this journey into this empty room. Maybe it was physical abuse. Somebody literally hit you with their fist, or maybe it was spiritual abuse. Maybe a church somewhere hurt you, or somebody in a church somewhere hurt you deeply and pushed you aside, or abandoned you, or made you feel less than worth it. I was at Brigsby's baseball practice the other day, and I spoke with a person who said they went to a church trying to seek God, trying to seek a relationship with God. The first time they had ever been there, they walked in the door of the church, and they were met by a lady at the front who took one look at her and said, "You won't feel welcome here because you have a tattoo." Now, tattoos, that's, we're not going to go off on that. What a sad, sad definition for a church to have someone feel that someone else would not be welcome here because of something they may have done. But there are people who this has been done to. There are people that have been treated in such a fashion in the church. And somehow we've got to come out of the closet and declare that we are a people who love people, that we are a people who love God. Maybe your empty room is there because you're under the grip of an addiction or the pain of being cast out or thrown aside. Empty, by its very definition, has no weight, but it feels so heavy because empty is nothing, but it feels so heavy when you're living with empty. When your love tank is empty, no love is coming in. That empty that weighs nothing, what can bear you down and push you down until you feel like you're underneath the surface. Empty is often associated with bad. It's often associated with sad or lack or loss. We talk about being empty. It's like an empty gas tank when you're miles away from home. Or when we talk about empty, we're talking about an empty bank account when the bills are piling up, or an empty nest when the house goes suddenly quiet when the kids all leave, or empty pews when faith feels far away. That empty living, I can tell today I'm connecting, because we all relate to empty somehow, some way. Almost certainly it was not a good thing. I was abandoned by my mom. I was abandoned by my dad. I was thrown out by the church. I was abused. Empty is something that all of us can relate to. It's that empty living room can feel like it's shouting. And it's shouting things like, you have no hope. There's no laughter allowed here. There's no love in this place. Just this cold, echoing void of nothing. You might even wonder, if you're in that place today, who'd want to step into this barren place? I would invite somebody over, but who in their right mind would want to come over to my heart? Because look, I got nothing to offer. I got just this one light bulb. I have no chair for them to sit in. I have no comfort to offer them. It's just a barren place. So why would anybody want to step into my heart? But listen. Y'all hear that? Do you hear it? Knock. That gentle knock, the one that cuts through the silence like a heartbeat. You know who it is? It's Jesus. He's standing at the door, persistent yet tender. And you might think to yourself, why is he here? I got nothing to give him. All I am is abandoned. All I am is a drug addict. All I am is a wife beater. All I am is an alcoholic. All I am, I have nothing to give. Why would he be here? See, understand something today. If you don't understand anything else, he is not put off by your emptiness. And he's knocking, saying, as he said in Revelation 3:20, behold, here I am. I stand at the door and knock. If you will open it, I'll come in and we'll share a meal together. Just you and me. Just open the door, and you're sitting on the other side in an empty room, maybe on the floor, and you're saying, a meal with me? In this sparse place with faith that feels dried up like beef jerky and hope that's just a flicker. Oh, dear friend, today, if you could only see just how loved you are, especially in your empty moments. You see, Jesus doesn't show up empty-handed. He brings with him a feast of grace and mercy and justice and hope, more than any delivery service could ever dream of. Uber Eats has nothing on Jesus. He doesn't walk in and judge your lack and say, oh man, you ain't got nothing to offer. He doesn't walk in and judge your emptiness or point out what's missing like other people might. Well, you don't have a couch? You know, he doesn't point out what's missing. He just comes in ready to help you fill up the empty spaces with His presence, His peace, and His love. That's what Jesus does. Empty. Empty has, some characteristics of empty. Empty. Whoa! Did y'all hear that? Empty has an echo. And some of you are living in the echo chamber of empty today. Some of you have lived in the echo. You're the one that needs to come out of the closet and declare He will help you fill up your empty. But every step, empty, every step you take seems to bounce back at you, screaming, failure, 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 failure. Lonely, 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 lonely. Unlovable, unlovable, unlovable. Lost, lost, lost. Hopeless, hopeless, hopeless. Worthless, worthless, worthless. Addict, addict, addict. Those echoes can feel like they're shouting, drowning out everything else. And maybe you feel like Isaiah in Isaiah 8:5 when he cried out saying, woe is me. I'm lost. I'm unclean. Or maybe you feel like Solomon in Ecclesiastes 1:2 who had everything. He thought he had wealth, he had women, he had castles, land, he had all the livestock. But at the end of in the middle of his journey, he said this. He said, everything is meaningless. Everything is meaningless. Or maybe you feel like Naomi. You'll find her story in Ruth chapter 1, who lost so much. She went to followed her husband and took her boys and went to another land to live, to work, to find a place to make a living, and lost everything while she was there. And now just by herself, her boys had been taken, her husband had been taken, and now she's coming back to her homeland. Ruth is with her. And when Naomi comes back, you may have felt like her before. She came back saying, I went out full, but I'm coming back empty. And she instructed everybody to just call me Mara, or which means bitter. Just call me bitter. And that's what emptiness can do to you if you allow it, and if you don't answer that gentle knock at your heart. Or maybe you're like Paul in 2 Corinthians 12:8, who pleaded for relief from a tormenting thorn in the flesh. Or maybe you're like even Jesus himself, who in Matthew 26:39 asked in the garden, if it is possible, let this cup pass from me. Have you ever been there? Lord, would you take this away from me? Lord, would you take this from me? Give me some relief, oh God. Someone here today is in such a place. I've been there too. I've actually visited empty several times in my life. Most of the time it was of my own doing, but I've visited empty. And I've come to know empty sometimes on a very intimate and personal basis. In fact, there have been seasons of empty in my life. Seasons of emptiness, loneliness, feeling worthless in my ministry, where my heart felt like a hollowed out cave. There was no joy. I couldn't find it anymore. There was no clear path. I didn't know which way to go. It was like, bless her heart, we have a little puppy. She's 13 years old, little Yorkie, and she's blind. Went blind in the last year or so, and watching her adjust to her blindness has been quite an amazing journey. But there are times if she gets misplaced in where she is. She'll bump into walls. She'll bump into to the sidewalk. She gets lost in a corner, and she'll just stand there, and she'll stay there and stare because she doesn't know which way to go. And I've been there. Metaphorically, I have been there with my empty heart, empty as my only companion. And all I hear are the echoes of, why keep going? Why keep going? Why keep going? What's the use? What's the use? What's the use? You're a failure. 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 After one particular brutal stretch, it was like the light had gone out completely, leaving only a cold, lonely ache in my spirit, in my heart. I was empty. It wasn't that God was gone, because his knock was there, just like it always had been. But I'd been hiding behind rules. I'd been hiding behind the expectations of legalism and the clutter of codependency in my own life. I'd put on a mask of perfection that appeared cool, calm, and collected on the outside, but was totally messed up on the inside. And as a result, anxiety ruled my life. I felt alone in a crowd, and the emptiness was an overwhelming feeling. Thankfully, though, he kept knocking. And in my misery, one day I opened the door and I asked Jesus to take his rightful place again back at the center of my heart. And here's what happened. My empty became his opportunity to remodel my soul, which is my mind, my thoughts, and to rejuvenate my spirit. And here's the beautiful thing about that. Empty isn't the end. Rather, it's a divine opportunity. It's not just a void. It's pregnant with possibility. It's a canvas waiting for God to paint something new. Think of the book of Genesis, where God hovered over the dark, formless void. The earth was without form and void, but the Spirit spoke into this formless void light. And when the Spirit spoke light, when the Spirit spoke life, when the Spirit spoke beauty, out of nothing, he created something. So don't despair you're empty today. Don't despair, don't cry over your empty, because it is a great opportunity for God to start brand new in your life. Empty is where God does his best work. It looks at a stuttering Moses, God does, and says, I can make, look at that guy stuttering down there. I can make him a spokesman. I can use him to talk to people for me. God looked at a man named Peter, a man who had severe anger issues. He looked at a hateful persecutor and terrorist like Saul, who would become Paul. He looked at a cheating tax collector like Zacchaeus, and he says, you know what? I can work with people like that. I can work with angry people. I can work with terrorists. I can work with people like that. He even saw one time a grieving widow following her son's casket and said, you know what? I can work with dead. And he walks up and he raises that boy back to life. I don't care where you are today in your circumstance, in your empty. God is able to work with nothing. God is at best. I think he does his best work with that. You understand? David was an adulterer and a murderer. Gideon was a coward. Noah was an alcoholic. Abraham was a liar. Rahab was a harlot. All of them were flawed. All of them were empty in their own way. And God said, I can work with that. And I think he's looking down in this place today, and individually he's pointing each one of you out to one of his angels. And he's saying, I can work with that. There's some potential right there. You know, oh, look over there. There's a Christian in the closet. If they'll just open the door, I can work with that. Does anybody want God to work with you today? To Peter, you know that list I just gave you? I could have made it longer because there's a big long list of messy people in the Bible. But to that Peter who had anger issues, God gave the keys to the kingdom and let him preach the first message on the day of Pentecost. That Saul, who was a terrorist, became Paul, the apostle to the Gentiles, who wrote most of the New Testament that you read, hopefully, on a daily basis. Tradition tells us that Zacchaeus guy became bishop of Caesarea. David was described as a man after God's own heart. Noah the drunk built the ark. Abraham the liar became the father of the nation of Israel. And Rahab the harlot became the great-grandmother 31 generations back of Jesus Christ himself. I'm telling you, God can work with your empty. Quit lamenting your empty and understand the potential that is in it. And he's saying the same thing to you today. I can work with your nothing. I can work with your pain. I can work with your issues. Isaiah 43:19. Isaiah said, behold, or God spoke and said through Isaiah, God said, behold, I am doing a new thing, and I will make a way in the wilderness, and rivers I will put there for you in your dry places. Your empty is God's opportunity to do something new in your life. You believe that today? You really believe that? Some of you are struggling with me now. You're struggling with me, but as I close, let me give you a word of caution. There is an inherent, just like there's this opportunity for emptiness, there is a danger of empty. Emptiness left alone. You leave it alone, it can fester. You leave it alone and dust piles up and shadows grow heavy and bitterness or sin can creep in, poisoning the air of empty. So my caution to you today is don't let empty linger. You hear that knock on your door? You need to open it quickly to Jesus. He's not just knocking, he's longing to come in, to turn your barren place into something alive with his love and with his purpose. So today as we stand and I bring this to a close, I want to appeal to your honesty. I want to appeal to your being open and vulnerable to yourself. Because inside of all of us somewhere, there's the potential of empty. Somewhere inside of us, somewhere there may be a little spot of empty. It may look like you've got everything under control. I got all this money. I got all these cars. I got all this house. I got all this stuff. I got the biggest TV you can have. I got the internet. I've got computers. I've got all this stuff. And you can look like you've got it all held together, but there can be a deep longing in your soul that you're trying to ignore. But in the ignorance of it, it is growing and growing and growing. And if you don't answer the door, that has another potential, and that potential is to turn into bitter. I left full. I came back empty. Just call me bitter. Don't be Naomi. Don't be Naomi. Now, God would flip all of that for her. And he would use her mightily because she brought Ruth, who met Boaz. They had children who had children who had children, one of which became the king of Judah by the name of David. And then from the lineage of David, from Naomi's coming out of the closet, and Ruth's belief produced Jesus himself. So if your heart's feeling that empty ache today, if you got everything you want, but this one thing, that one thing has the potential of bitterness attached to it. If those echoes of pain or loneliness are loud, and you're tired of the cold, cold voice and the cold, cold void, you need to hear this. Every head bowed, every eye closed, please. Anybody home? If you'll just open the door, let me come in. I'll sit down with you, even if I have to sit on the floor. I'll eat with you. If you don't have anything, don't worry. I brought some stuff with me. Yeah, I got some gumbo. Yeah, I started with grace. Yeah, added a little faith. Yeah, threw in some mercy and stirred that up and made a roux. Now I'm ready to put some meat in there. I'm ready to bring blessing. Just open the door. His arms are full of grace, ready to make your empty room bloom with life. Maybe you've never let him in, or maybe life's storms have pushed you away and you're longing to come home. Today is your moment. In this quiet, sacred place, if you're ready to open the door, if you're ready to let Jesus fill your emptiness with forgiveness, with purpose, with love that wraps you up like a warm blanket, I challenge you in the next 60 seconds to make a faith statement by letting go of that pew you're holding on to, stepping out, and come to the front. Step out in faith. Don't matter what the empty is. Don't matter. We're not going to ask. We don't really care about the empty. There's no judgment here. You will not be judged. Grace is just waiting to meet you. Grace is just waiting. 20 more seconds. See, God sees your heart, feels your trembling, and He's ready to move in. He's ready to move in. But He's waiting on you to make that faith statement by walking to the door, turning the doorknob, opening the door, and say, hello? He's ready to say, I'm Jesus. Nice to meet you. Can I come in? I brought some stuff. I brought some healing with me. I brought some power with me. I brought some authority with me. I brought some peace with me. And whatever your empty is today, He wants to fill it. Maybe you've been praying for it for year after year after year. Maybe it's just now come upon you. Maybe it's something you've just been pushing aside and ignoring it. You know, like the proverbial ostrich, you've been hiding your head in the sand and hoping it'll go away. But lo and behold, take your head out of the sand and there that thing is. It's like a grit of sand in an oyster. But the good thing about that is it can turn into a pearl. If you'll just open your heart and say, God, I got nothing. They sang the song today, I got nothing else to give. So I'm just going to lift up my hands and praise you again and again. I'm going to lift up my hands and praise you again and again. Because your love never runs out, but my words do. So even if it sounds repetitive, Lord, here I am again. I'm going to be persistent with my praise just like you were persistent with your knock. I'm going to be persistent with my prayer just like you were persistent with your knock. I'm going to keep praising until I see the resurrection of empty. Father, right now I pray for every person that took that step of faith. It was a simple step, didn't require anything except movement, a little bit of courage. But I bring every person who made that faith statement, and I pray that you would not let that statement go unheard or unanswered. Whatever that empty space is that's in their heart, I pray right now that the power of the Holy Spirit would begin to minister. That, Father, while I can't go around and lay hands on every person, I could, I guess, but it would be a long, long service. While I can't lay my hands on them in a timely manner, right now, Father, you can walk up to every person. Holy Spirit, I pray that you would walk up to every person right now and let them feel give them goosebumps right now. Let their hair on their arm kind of stand up right now as you gently touch them. As you gently speak to them and breathe on them. Breathe on my little buddy today, Father. Breathe on him today. Breathe on him today. Breathe on Priscilla today. Breathe on Neil right now, who has a major prayer request. Breathe on him right now and feel that emptiness that's in his heart. In Jesus' name, breathe on Raymond right now. In Jesus' name.